Hi people, today we are going on with the subjunctive mood. I'll give you some tips to make it easier to learn verbs in the subjunctive mood in Spanish. Let's get into it. Let's see the main irregular verbs in Spanish and what we do with them in the subjunctive mood. Hacer, to do or to make. Ser, to be. Estar, tener, to have. Dar, to give. To go, ir. What else? To say, decir. The auxiliary verb to have, haber, and its meaning as the same as you have in English for there is, there are. Well, let's see these for now. I'd rather say that it's easier in this mood than in the indicative mood, because the irregularities that we find in the indicative mood are kept throughout the conjugation. For example, let's see, with tener. Do you remember that we say in Spanish, yo tengo, but then tú tienes, él tiene, we only add the g, tengo, for the first person in the singular? Well, in the subjunctive mood, this g will be the same for all pronouns. Let's see. We have a new root here. This is the root. When I say the root, it's not the original root of the infinitive, because otherwise it would be ten. But let's think of it as a new root for the subjunctive mood in the present. Ten, ten, ten. As you can see, it's regular in this mood. And then we add the endings. It's easier to, if we think that the same as for regular verbs, as it ends with er in the subjunctive mood, as I told you in the previous video, it will change to a in this mood. Yo tenga, tú tengas, él, ella tenga, nosotros tengamos, vosotros tengáis, ellos, ellas tengan. So this is the present tense, of course. Tiempo presente. O just presente. And so if you bear this in mind, that this will be all through the conjugation, it's even easier than the conjugation in the indicative mood, because it becomes regular. We follow this rule of ten in the root and then add the endings. So I'm going to cross the verbs that we've already conjugated, tener. Let's see another one. Verb to be, ser, translated into ser, because remember that to be means either ser, both ser and estar in Spanish. For the verb ser, it's very, very easy, because we'll find a new root now too. This is something very important to have in mind when it comes to learning the indicative mood, the subjunctive mood, because different from the indicative mood, in which we have irregularities for specific pronouns, different irregularities, in this mood we'll find sort of new roots. Let's see with the verb ser. So I'm going to put the new root, se, at, as it ends with er. Remember, we add the a as for the same as for regular verbs. Yo sea, tú seas, él, ella sea, nosotros seamos, vosotros seáis, ellos, ellas sean. So if you keep this in mind, this tip, it's very, very easy. As you can see in this mood, in the present, it's regular. Ser, sea, ses, etc. So let's cross this now. Now we are going to see both ir and haber, because they share the regularity that becomes a new regularity in this tense. Ir. Do you remember that in the present tense we add ave, B corta, v, I mean in English it's v, but we don't have that sound in Spanish. It's not v, but b at the beginning. Yo voy, tú vas, él va. Well, we'll have the same v sound at the beginning. That will be the new root. I mean, for this tense, just the b will be the root. And then we have an irregularity, if we compare it with if we see, it's so different from the infinitive that I got lost here, so it's ir. If you see the infinitive, it's the same as the ending ir, just ir. We add the b, and for ir, we add this as part of the root, this irregularity that will be kept throughout the conjugation, so it will be sort of a new regularity. If you bear in mind these tips, the conjugation becomes easier. For example, it's better if I go to the supermarket now. Well, in English it doesn't change. It's the same as in the simple present, but the translation into Spanish would be: es mejor que yo vaya al supermercado ahora. And then the endings for each personal pronoun. Yo vaya, tú vayas, él vaya, nosotros vayamos, vosotros vayáis, ellos, ellas vayan. Sorry. As you can see again, for ir ending in the subjunctive mood, we find this a. The same will happen, but the difference is that we won't add any other consonant or any other letter of the alphabet with the verb haber. Let's cross to go ir, and let's see haber, to have, the auxiliary verb to have. And there is the are, of course. An example, so that you see the difference between Spanish. In English, when it comes to the absence of the subjunctive mood in English and the present, on the other hand, in Spanish. Let's see an example. Fact that I've studied a lot doesn't necessarily mean that I'll pass the exam. Que yo haya estudiado mucho no significa necesariamente que vaya a aprobar el examen. So we have two subjunctive moods in Spanish in that sentence in our translation into Spanish. So the root here will be I. Through personal pronouns, of course. It becomes sort of regular. I mean, it does become regular Not regular, bearing in mind the infinitive. Regular for practical purposes. Regular for practical purposes, to make it easier for you to remember them, because I know that the subjunctive mood is sort of is complex, it's difficult. But if you keep these tips in mind, it'll be easier to learn. Yo haya, tú hayas, él haya, nosotros, nosotras hayamos, vosotros, vosotras hayáis, ellos, ellas hayan. Let's cross this and see. There are 4 verbs left to see. Hacer, estar, dar, and decir. Let's see. We'll have this new root, ag, 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 ag. Do you remember that in the indicative mood we say yo hago, but then tú haces, él hace, etc. So for the indicative mood, if you remember, we had to change, we have, because it's something that we have to do, but we had, when we saw it in the video, we have to change the s or th sound of the letter for this g, he, only for the first personal in the singular. Well, in this conjugation, it'll be for all personal pronouns, so it's easier. Good news there. Yo haga, that I make or that I do, it's necessary that I make, yes, it's necessary that I make lunch because it's lunchtime. It's better that you do sport because it's healthy, it's a healthy habit. Es mejor que hagas ejercicio porque es un hábito saludable. And in the other example that I said, es necesario que haga el almuerzo porque es la hora del almuerzo. That's the translation into Spanish. Haga, hagas, haga, hagamos, hagáis, and hagan. So please keep these tips in mind, like this, good throughout the conjugation, or in the other cases, the new roots that we found, to make it easier for you to learn this mood. Let's cross hacer and let's see another one. Let's leave estar for the end for a particular reason. Let's leave estar and dar for the end for a particular reason that you'll see when we see them. Because they share a specific irregularity. So let's move on to decir. For decir, to say, we'll have dig, like dig, like the verb dig in English. I mean, it doesn't have it doesn't mean the same, but if you remember it. Dig, dig, dig. We don't say dig, but dig. It's softer. The sound in Spanish is softer. It's important that I say something about this problem. Es importante que yo diga algo sobre este problema. So in Spanish, it's in the subjunctive mood. Diga, yo diga, tú digas, él, ella diga, nosotros digamos, vosotros digáis, ellos digan. As you can see, these two roots are regular. Let's finally move to estar and decir and see the particular irregularity that they have. Will be the same as in the infinitive. In this case, is that the stress will fall after the root through personal pronouns. Él, ella, esté, nosotros estemos, vosotros estéis, ellos, ellas estén. All stresses fall in the ending, as you can see. I mean, the combination of the common endings for each personal pronoun, and in this case the vowel e that follows this conjugation in the subjunctive mood. That you are here doesn't mean that you were invited to my house, for example. Oh, it's not a good example because it's a bit rude, but it's just an example. In Spanish, que estés acá o aquí no significa que te haya invitado. Haya again. The same happens with to give, dar. The root will be the same as in the infinitive mood, the letter D in Spanish, and we'll find the same, exactly the same irregularity in the endings. I'm looking for the green ink. I don't know where I put it. There. We do the exactly the same as here. Yo de, that I give. It's important that I give some help to people who need it. Es importante que dé un poco de ayuda a gente que lo necesita. I'm going to talk about this accent mark here. Demos, vosotros, vosotras deis, ellos den. In these cases, in this one and this one, when we see, well, in the next video we are going to see rules of stress in Spanish. It's very useful when it comes to writing, of course, but writing is important too, not only speaking. In these two cases, it's an introduction to the stress system in Spanish. As this word has two syllables, and this one too, when it ends with a vowel, we put this mark, este. In these cases, both have just one syllable, so in theory, it wouldn't be necessary. We shouldn't put the stress mark, the accent mark, but I guess some of you know the reason why we put this. It is just to make a distinction between this meaning of giving, to give, and this one of the preposition of, de. The preposition de, as it is only one syllable, in Spanish it doesn't have the accent mark. But as we have two words in Spanish that are written the same, de, and mean two different things, we put this, the rule says that for the verb to give, in this conjugation, we have to put this mark to show the meaning, to mean that it comes from the verb to give, and and it's nothing to do with the preposition de. Well, people, it's all for today. We saw very useful verbs that we conjugate all the time in Spanish, every day. I'd rather say every day. There are, of course, other important irregular verbs, but for now, let's stop here. Well, and see you in the next video. If you like this one, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel, share, comment, etc. Well, bye-bye.